I used to think the idea of fate was just a story people told themselves to make sense of the world. But now, looking back, I can't help but wonder if some things are just meant to be. This is the story of how I fell in love with someone I was never even supposed to notice. Back in high school, if you looked at my life from the outside, you'd probably think I had it all. The nice clothes, the brand new car my dad bought me for my 16th birthday, a future that was already mapped out and practically guaranteed. I was supposed to go to a top university, get a respectable degree, and marry someone from a similarly good family. On paper, it was a perfect life, but in reality, it was a gilded cage. What no one saw, what no one even bothered to look for, was how completely and utterly controlled my life was. Every decision, from the subjects I took to the friends I was allowed to have, was made by my father. He was a man who believed in appearances above all else. Success was everything, and any mistake, no matter how small, was a failure that was held against me, a stain on the family name. I felt like a prop in someone else's play, a doll dressed up and put on display. I was suffocating, and the worst part was, I felt completely invisible in my own life. I smiled when I was told to smile. I studied what I was told to study, but the real me was buried so deep I wasn't even sure she existed anymore. And then, there was Tommy. For the longest time, I didn't even know his name. I didn't know he existed. We went to the same school, but our worlds were galaxies apart. We never shared a single class, our friend groups didn't overlap, and we never passed each other in the hallways. The only thing we shared, the single thread connecting our two separate lives, was a desk. A simple worn-out wooden desk in an old classroom. You see, I had my regular classes there during the day, and he, as I would later find out, used that same classroom for night school. It all started one Tuesday afternoon. I was in a rush to get to a family dinner, another one of those command performances, and I accidentally left my advanced calculus notebook on the desk. I was frantic the next morning, picturing my father's disappointment when he heard I'd lost it. But when I got to class, there it was, sitting right where I'd left it. I breathed a sigh of relief and opened it to review my notes. And that's when I saw it. In the margins, next to a problem I'd been struggling with for days, was a new set of calculations written in a neat, precise handwriting that definitely wasn't mine. And below it, a simple note: "You were so close. Just forgot to carry the negative. You'll get it next time." There was no name, no signature, just this quiet, anonymous encouragement. I was baffled, but also intrigued. The next week I accidentally left my notebook again. This time, I'd written a question in the margin. Why does this formula even work? The next day, an answer was waiting for me. Not just the textbook definition, but a gentle, patient explanation that made it all click in a way my teacher never could. This became our secret ritual. I'd leave notes, questions, sometimes just frustrated doodles. He would always respond. He'd leave encouraging words, solve problems, and even share little bits of his own thoughts. He wrote about the stars, about philosophers I'd never heard of, about the quiet beauty of a city at night. Through his words, I started to feel seen. This faceless stranger listened to me. He helped me. He cared, all without knowing my name, my family, or the life I was supposed to lead. He didn't want anything from me. He was just there. And for the first time, I felt like someone was talking to the real me. The mystery of who he was consumed me. I had to know. One evening, I made an excuse to my parents and drove back to the school. I parked across the street and just waited, my heart pounding in my chest. Around 7, the lights in that classroom flickered on. A little while later, I saw a figure through the window, sitting at my desk. I finally worked up the courage to go inside. The hallways were dark and empty, a stark contrast to the bustling chaos of the school day. The only sound was the echo of my own footsteps. I pushed open the classroom door, and there he was. He was quiet. He had this gentle look in his eyes, but they also held a weight, a sadness that seemed too heavy for someone our age. He was wearing a janitor's uniform. It was Tommy. He worked for the school's maintenance crew during the day and took night classes to finish his diploma. He was brilliant, a self-taught genius who devoured books in his spare time, but life had dealt him a tough hand. He was supporting his family, carrying responsibilities that would crush most adults. When he saw me, he didn't look starstruck or intimidated. He just looked kind. There was a flicker of recognition in his eyes, and he smiled a little. "You forgot your notebook," he said softly. That was the beginning. We started talking. Properly, we met in secret, stealing moments in the empty library after school, or talking for hours in his old beat-up car. He never once treated me like a prize to be won or a princess from a different world. He treated me like a person. He asked me what I thought, what I dreamed of, who I wanted to be. He saw past the expensive clothes and the perfect grades. He saw me. Of course, the world didn't see us that way. When people found out we were close, the whispers started. My friends couldn't understand what I saw in the janitor. My family was horrified. My father forbade me from seeing him, threatening to cut me off, to ruin any chance Tommy had of building a better life. The pressure was immense. Even Tommy, in his own gentle way, tried to push me away. He thought I deserved better, that he was holding me back from the future I was supposed to have, but he was wrong. Loving him was the first real choice I ever made for myself. It was the first thing in my life that wasn't about status, or expectations, or my father's approval. It was just about two people who found each other in the margins of a notebook. We didn't make grand promises of forever. The world we lived in made that feel impossible. The obstacles were too high, the gap between our lives too wide. But that wasn't the point. What Tommy gave me was something far more valuable than a promise. He showed me what it felt like to be truly seen and valued for who I am. He taught me that love isn't about finding someone who fits into your life perfectly. It's about finding someone who helps you become the person you were always meant to be. Love doesn't always come dressed in fancy clothes or from a life of comfort and privilege. Sometimes, it comes from the most unexpected places. Sometimes, it comes from the quiet person who sits in your seat when you re-gone and leaves something better, something real, behind for you to find. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you've ever found love in an unexpected place, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.